One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to One Question. I'm here at the 2018 AFCA National Convention. My guest today is Coach David Shaw. David Shaw is currently the head coach at Stanford. He's been there in total for 11 years, and this is his 7th year as a head coach. And he's been coaching for almost 25 years. Greetings, Coach Shaw. Thanks for joining us today.
Nice to be here.
Now, Coach, coaching for almost 25 years, you've done a lot of recruiting, and I've heard you talk a lot about recruiting here at the AFCA and when you're out talking to people and your staff. And you say that when you're recruiting as coaches need to be the grown-up in that conversation when talking to recruits. And there's a specific way that we need to communicate to young people and tell them that you're going to come here and we're going to help you grow. Can you expand on that philosophy and tell us why it's important in today's environment with today's youth, and also how has it helped you at Stanford to create and maintain an environment for success?
Well, when my wife and I decided to have kids and we talked to people that were parents, the best advice we ever got was start as you mean to go on. And I always remember that. And in recruiting for me, that says a lot with how you engage young people initially and stay consistent with how you communicate with them and what you say to them and how you say it. I think in our sport, so many people cross the line, in my opinion, and it's by choice, to befriend them. And, and I'm not mean to them by any stretch of the imagination, but I also let them know early on, I'm not a teenager. I'm not in my early 20s. I'm in my 40s. I've lived a bit of a life, hopefully get a chance to live a lot more. But by benefit of my experience, I want to establish for them what I believe it takes to be successful. I'm not enticing them with recruiting, with giving them promises. I'm not doing any of that stuff. For me, I want to let them know how the program that we have will help them achieve things academically, athletically, and socially. And they have to depend on that. And in order for that to happen, though, somebody has to set the standard. Somebody has to say, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. This is what we do and this is what we don't do. As opposed to, hey, come here and do whatever you want. I think when you establish that relationship in recruiting, when they get to your place, and people call it the de-recruitment process, once they get to campus, then you have to try to become something else and say, okay, well, now I'm going to be a disciplinarian. Well, during the recruiting process, I was kind of your buddy. Now I'm kind of telling you what to do and what not to do. Now I'm starting to raise my voice at you. Now I'm a son of a coach. I'm also a son of a teacher, in that before you raise your voice, you better establish a relationship. So for me, that's what that first comment was, and what my process is I'm going to establish the relationship, and I'm going to hold my part of it, which is to provide an environment that's going to be conducive to you being successful on and off the football field, and at the same time have a standard of behavior, a standard of work ethic, a standard of performance that I want to hold you to. And for me, I have to be consistent there if I want you to be consistent as a young man that I'm recruiting. So that's why I talk about being the adult, being the person who looks forward and saying, okay, in order for you to be successful, here's what I need to be for you. Not what I need to be for me, and not what I think I should be in an abstract way. It's like, here's how I can help you be successful. So you come here, you come to us. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to put my arm around you on a tough day. I'm going to put my foot in your backside when I think you need it. And explain to you why. And at the end of the day, when you look back 20 years from now, hopefully you look back and say, you know what, I'm glad Coach Shaw was honest with me. I'm glad he was hard on me. I'm glad he raised the expectations for me, that when I look back, I didn't have those expectations, those high expectations for myself, whether it's on or on the football field. So that's why, for me, our job is so important, and I think so many people blur that line, and these young people don't benefit from us blurring the line. They don't benefit from us not holding them accountable because they don't learn how the world works once they leave us. And once they leave us, some of them go into shock. They're surprised. They don't understand why their words matter. They don't understand why their actions matter. They don't understand why when their performance is up and down, they get fired. So for me, I want to establish that for those guys in our program.
Right off the bat. And And you've been coaching, we said, for almost 25 years. I'd assume that conversation hasn't changed with kids from when you began coaching to what it is now in terms of being an adult in the conversation. Kids receive information different now. How has that affected your philosophy on this? You once told a story about a couple kids you had to call them and say you don't have a scholarship to Stanford anymore because of something you read in the paper about them. Talk to me about how, over time, relaying the same message has changed in terms of how you deliver it to kids.
The thing is, the world has changed. And I try to remind my coaches, the world that is producing these young men has changed. So these young men are coming in differently than they came in before. And for whatever reasons, social media is and people just point the finger at social media. But for me, what it is they have more access. So in some ways, they're more educated. They know more. They've been exposed to more, good and bad. But it also, to me, what it's done for them, or done to them, it's made them very self-centered. It's been very much, I'm okay, I should be able to do whatever I want, say whatever I want, I'm not going to conform. And there's some of that that's great. There's some of that for a young person to come in and have your own principles and be able to stand in those principles in the face of opposition. That's one thing. It's another thing to come in and say, I'm a superstar, I don't need to work, but I want all the benefits. That's the educational process that I think was taught so well in our parents' day, taught pretty well in our day, and it is not getting taught well at all now through this world where everybody gets a trophy. So being able to instill and reinstill the work ethic that it takes to be successful, that's irrespective of your talent. Setting up an environment to where the best on your team and the worst on your team are all going to go through the same situation, and we're going to play the guy that's better. That's absolutely true, but at the same time, you have responsibilities to this team and to yourself to be at your absolute best. Don't give me 50% and let me think that's going to be worth it, because it's not going to be worth it for me. So it's just establishing a standard of effort and a standard of performance and a standard of behavior that is going to help us be successful in football. But like I said before, the most important thing to me is they look back 20 years from now and say, man, I'm glad that got established in college, because I've seen people my age falter because they don't know how to work. They don't know how to be held accountable. They don't know how to answer to people without saying, hey, don't be hard on me. They want to look back and say, hey, you know what? Tell me what the standard is, and hold me to that, and being appreciative of that relationship.
And that's part one of our conversation with David Shaw, head football coach at Stanford University. And this is Ty Brown with One Question, signing off. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.